he didn't care about it, he didn't know about it.
Yes, I do.
Each and every politician in Scotland, you see it as easier. You must demand a ceasefire now. If you have humanity, if there is heart and there is reason, you must join with those around the world and those who will march and gather here today again and say we demand an immediate ceasefire. These are innocent victims, but there are guilty individuals who have dropped the bombs, who have pressed the buttons, who sell the weapons, who cover up the war crimes. And we lie down today because, like many, many around the world, we refuse to stand by, so we lie down. And I want everyone to think that when we call for a ceasefire, we're calling for peace. We're demanding peace. And we refuse to walk by, we refuse to close our eyes and close our hearts. We demand an immediate ceasefire. Families, communities, grandmothers, brothers, sisters, aunties, uncles, and children. The children laid out here today in our camp for this, and at some point today, to see the smiling faces of children when they were alive, and we remember those children. We remember those children with their smiles and their laughs, and we're here today because we want to see them smile and laugh again. Under the rubble of Gaza, there are people who liked a certain type of music, who preferred a certain type of tea, who liked to dress a certain way, who had a favourite poem or a favourite book, who maybe has a favourite grandchild. And we remember each and every one of them. And again, to all the politicians in Scotland, to those calling for an immediate ceasefire, we say, good, let's make it happen. To those in public life across Scotland who have not yet added their voices to the call for an end to this through an immediate ceasefire. If you won't look at the real dead, if you turn away from the children, you turn away from the rubble of Gaza, we are here to make sure you do not turn away from the demands of the Scottish people standing up by dying in for Palestine. How can you see what we see and not want it to stop? How can you see what we see and not do everything in your power? And we should be proud of everybody who's done their bit over the last few weeks. Spoke to a family member, spoke to a neighbour.
We're assembling here against genocide. A nurse was shot dead while tending to babies in an incubator in a Shifa hospital. One example of mass killing which our government in London supports. So please assemble at 1 o'clock, suitable for mourning in grief, to commemorate people, to honour the dead who cannot be buried but are lying rotting among refuse as Israel produces everything but a cholera epidemic. We are here against genocide. 1 o'clock will kick off. It's like bawling and shouting, me included. But today, a lot of people are wearing black, wearing grief. Our hearts are broken. And one of the speakers will tell you about her family being exterminated. This is not a day for bawling and shouting. It's a day for discipline and respect and commemorating the Palestinians being murdered. Please, silence until 1 o'clock.
Everyone. My name is Juan. I'm 8 years old. I'm from Gaza. I could be one of the children who were under the rebels, okay, by Israel's rockets. I was born in 2014 when I was in my mother's womb. I witnessed the first war as my family was looking for a place to hide from bombing, but nowhere was safe. I also watched 2 other wars in 2018 and 2019. In 2018, I woke up and my neighbors getting bombed while my dad squeezing me escaping from bombs fragments that flied and broke my room windows. In 2019, I was so scared from every bomb that Israelis thrown. I just want you to imagine yourself being with your family, kids, living and playing then. Suddenly, one time, huge bombs fired around you. 2 months ago, I was in Gaza for a holiday visiting my family. There, I played with Sajid, but now he is gone with all his family, except one brother is still alive. Listen, everybody, I only care about the children, babies, women, and men that are getting bombed in their own homes. And can I just ask you one question? Doesn't everybody have rights? But why do Palestinian people don't have rights? Is it because they are protecting Palestine and trying to regain their homeland? Is that fair? Is this justice? The worst thing is when you watch on TV, babies crying and children saying, "This is our land, we are not leaving, we will fight immigration." Sometimes I also see the Shiva hospital that I was born in is getting bombed with tons of children there dying. I hope this genocide ends now because I need my people and my family to be safe. We are not animals. Our martyrs are not numbers, but every martyr has a name, story, a dream, and a life. My mother has lost 28 people from her family, and my dad and I lost from my family some members. So, can you repeat after me? Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
When you think of David and Goliath, you have children with stones, and you have an army in front of them with guns and bullets and tanks. And these kids throw a stone, and they are massacred. That's not self-defense, that is murder. And the Israeli army and the Israeli government are committing genocide on the Palestinian people, and we will not stand for it, not at all. I've been in Gaza, I've been in the West Bank, I've been in the hospitals. In fact, I was along with Pauline Neal, the previous speaker, and we saw what was happening. That was a number of years ago, but even then, Palestinian people, particularly in Gaza, had to walk on the other side of the street. They could not get the bus. It was only for Israelis. Is that not apartheid? Israel is an apartheid state, and it should be known that it is.
Thank you very much, and thank you for everybody turning up on this Saturday once again.
I'm going to read from notes because I think it's very important to be careful about exactly what you say in this circumstance. Just to say, first of all, I don't speak today in my capacity as an MSP or deputy leader of the SNP, nor indeed as an ex-Minister for Veterans or ex-Marine. I speak as a human being about a human situation unfolding before our eyes. As a human being seriously concerned about the cycle of violence and loss of life that's encircled Palestine and Israel for decades, and has escalated beyond all imagination over the past month. I'm going to start by saying that I absolutely condemn the horrific terrorist attacks carried out by Hamas on October the 7th. Those abhorrent attacks were beyond words and must be condemned in the strongest possible terms. There is nothing that could justify the acts of brutality that the international community laid witness to on that day. And also to say there is no place in Scotland for anti-Islamic sentiment or anti-Semitic sentiment. And it's a real credit to the people of Scotland and those communities that we have not seen some of the incidents happening that have happened elsewhere. So thank you for that. Imagine for a second though that your family, your neighbours, and everyone that you know is now being totally isolated from the rest of the world at a moment's notice, at the hands of a neighbouring country. No food, no water, no electricity, no contact, all through no fault of your own. That's exactly the situation that over 2 million people in Gaza now find themselves in. And let me be absolutely clear, no government, no country, no state should ever be able to exercise that amount of power over another country. But we stand against terrorism and violence of all kinds and recognise that Israel, of course, has a right to defend itself, as all countries do. We need to be clear. Collective punishment is a war crime. And it's wrong that the Palestinian people are currently being collectively punished for the actions of a terrorist group. And the only way that we are going to end the perpetual cycle of violence in Palestine and Israel is by addressing the root cause. That's why we stand for a two-state solution which recognises the sovereignty, the independence, the territorial integrity and the right to self-determination of both Palestine and Israel. Because we know that a Palestinian life is equal to an Israeli life, and that an Israeli life is equal to a Palestinian life. As I say, Israel has a right to defend itself against terrorism, but that response must be proportionate, and the actions of the Israeli government in recent weeks have been anything but. The indiscriminate bombing of the Jabalia refugee camp, which killed dozens and injured potentially up to 400 people, is just the latest example of a disproportionate approach being taken by Israel. Hundreds of people injured and dozens of innocent people dead in order to kill one Hamas commander. It's not a proportionate response, it's a huge oversight and a massive error of judgment. International law applies to everybody, and the international community knows this. That's why over 120 countries, a majority, have voted in favour of a ceasefire at the UN last week. And I'm ashamed to say that the UK was not one of those countries. My party, the SNP's position on this remains the same as it's always been. We were against the blockade of Gaza in 2005. We condemned Hamas as a terrorist organisation. We supported an embargo, as Amnesty International did, on the sale of UK weapons. We stand against the illegal Israeli settlements in the West Bank, which are proven to have no basis in international law by the UN. And we called immediately for the release of hostages after the 240 Israelis who were so wrongly abducted during their day-to-day lives. And we continue to call for the release of hostages. We call for the establishment of a humanitarian corridor when this crisis broke out, to allow all innocent Gazans to be able to leave. And we stand here today in support of a ceasefire. And that's why it's time for us to say to the UK government, as we did during the Iraq War, that Scotland stands united. We stand for human rights, and that we say not in our name. We must now act to stop the bloodshed, the needless deaths of thousands of innocents in the war. And there's not a war in history that's not ended with a treaty or an agreement. that cannot happen until there is a ceasefire.
I really feel consoled and strong to see all the support across the UK and everywhere to stand for justice and to stand for the human rights of Palestinians in Gaza. I'm sorry to hear today at this stage another space to justification the killing of Palestinians in Gaza. What does self-defense mean for you? Is it more killing of children? Is it more killing and genocide and massacres of families in Gaza? As up to this morning, more than 11,000 people in Gaza were killed by the war machine of Israel's occupation army. This is a shame on humanity. This is a shame on the international community to let this still happening and do nothing to stop it. And it's a shame to see and watch the UK government, rather than calling and putting efforts to stop the mass killing of Palestinians and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, to put effort to silence us, to put effort to ban these peaceful demonstrations that is only calling for justices, that is only calling for ceasefire, for the stop of the killing of innocent Palestinian civilians in Gaza. I can't even find an explanation actually of the government perspective on banning this demonstration. We are today mourning the death of everyone, but rather than banning us, is it giving the green light for more killing of Palestinians so you can remember them in the future? This is ironic actually. This is disgusting actually. This is not humane, and I feel sorry and I feel heartbroken to see this is still happening. And up to this morning, before I just left the house, Israeli occupation army, they were surrounding all hospitals in Gaza City. We've heard calling for people to come and help. One of the hospitals, which is dedicated for children in Gaza, Al-Nasser hospitals, tanks were surrounding the hospitals everywhere, and they forced the doctors and the staff there to leave against their willing to stay to look after babies on their incubators. Is this the self-defense that we are hearing today in this stage? Is this the self-defense of leaving babies on their incubator to die alone? I feel this is a shame on humanity. This is a shame to every day we're just hearing hundreds of people, families that have been wiped out in Gaza, and no one is doing nothing actually. They are rather keep justifying, giving the green light for more murder, for ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, and for genocide. As we are remembering today all lives who were lost in Palestine and in Gaza Strip in the last 5 weeks, these lives who were our friends, neighbors, families, colleagues. I'm going to tell the story of 3 of my friends whom I lost in the last week actually. And these are the stories of all Palestinians. What I've been receiving in the last few days from friends, families, relatives that saying, we don't have a voice to tell the story. Please ask everyone who's joining and who's calling for the human rights of Palestinians to tell our stories. We don't want to be referred as numbers in the news. We are human beings. We are like you, like me, and like everyone. We have dreams, we have aspirations, we have hope, and this is what we wanted to live. But unfortunately, we don't know. This could be our last message, and if it will be, please be our voice. And it's a responsibility for everyone who's calling for justice of Palestine to be the voice of Palestinians. It's together that makes the voice heard and the voice reach everywhere. So I'll start actually with a friend And a fellow scholar, actually, his name is Maisara, and I think a few of you may heard of him, of his story already. Maisara is a doctor, a Palestinian doctor. He was doing his master's degree just 2 years ago here in the UK. He got a scholarship from the Foreign Secretary of State, and he went back to Gaza because he believed that his people in Gaza needs his support and his skills. And just this week, Maisara was under the rubble of 6-floor building with all his family in Gaza. His 2 brothers who were outside of the house at that time, they went trying to dig using their hands because there is no equipment now in Gaza. There is nothing actually to help taking out dead bodies from under the rubble. And his 2 brothers, they were spending hours trying to dig and take their families out of the rubble. But Israeli occupation, who are thirsty of blood and killing, they bombed the same building again. And his 2 brothers were also killed in that situation. So there was no one survived from Maisara's family in Gaza. Maisara, the good story about him, that just in September, Mr. James Cleverly, who's the Foreign Secretary of the UK, met him alongside other scholars from Gaza to hear their stories about aspiration and hope of Palestinian youngs in Gaza. And now Mr. Cleverly, alongside his government,
Palestine! I honestly thought it was going a bit wrong as soon as we got called this Palestine will be free!